Welcome back to the Tennessee Frugal Craftsman. It's Tuesday the 14th of June. I wanted to show you what I'm working on the past couple days. I'm just kind of doing this part-time as I'm finishing up my brick, taking a break from cleaning brick. I've got another day or so working on that, or a few hours. So I'm getting ready to do some work with picking up a plane and doing some of the planing of the lumber, some of the lighter stuff. And so I needed to have some feeder roller tables for my plane, and so I was thinking of doing 4 8-foot rollers, or extensions to the planer, so I could actually feed the larger lumber eventually into the plane and have minimal kind of resistance and having to stand there and hold them. And so thought through some of the possibilities, did some looking online to see what was available, kind of some ideas. And this one particular idea came from an online video. It was a much smaller scale than what I'm doing, but decided to try it with some of the material I had salvaged from one of the buildings here locally when they were tearing down. And so I want to show you kind of a finished product of what one looks like, what I'm doing, and then kind of the process of actually building one. And so thanks for joining me, and so let's have a look. All right, this here, building this out of my own lumber, so it's not I haven't planed anything, obviously, because I haven't got my plane up and running, but this is some of the poplar and pine 2x4s that I've actually made. And what I did is, let's come down here and have a look. What I did is I actually took, as you can see here, these are metal electrical conduit, 3/4 inch conduit. And I've drilled those and sunk them back in about an inch and an eighth on each side. And then I took, this was stuff I salvaged. This is inch, I think it's 1.25 inch, electrical plastic conduit. And as you can see, these actually roll. I sprayed them down with silicone inside and put this kind of, almost looks like a ladder, but I set those about every 6 inches, see if that works. Now, I mean, worst case scenario, you could always put them every 3 inches, but I think this should work for holding up my lumber as it feeds into the actual plane, as you can see. So this one's 8 feet long. I start in at 3 inches. I'll show you how to lay this out, but I start in at 3 inches from the end, so the next one that butts to it will be 6 inches apart like everything else. And so 3 inches on center, and these are all 6 inches on center. And the plan is eventually, and I'll show you when I get them up and running, but the plan is to set these up on benches at the same height as the plane. I've got this set up here on this end where I can actually screw two together, so I do one with it open on one end and the other one with the solid end. And you have to keep this, I'll just come down here so you can kind of get you have to keep this below these rollers, so the next one, when I screw this together to the next one, it'll roll right over the top of it. So that's kind of the plan. And so what I've been doing this morning, I want to try to put one together. I've got to do a little bit of work. This is some of the piping that I'm cutting. Now this here is actually water pipe, because it's cheaper than the electrical. I'll show you some of this was the electrical conduit that I was using. Like I said, this was stuff that I had salvaged. But this is the plastic, or the PVC water line. Now this runs about $10 a 10-foot length. And like I said, I had enough on that one over there to actually do all I needed for the first one. So I salvaged, that's all complete salvaged material, so that didn't cost me anything. But you can get the thinner stuff. It's the thinner walled stuff for around $7, but I paid the extra to give this a little more. It's really rigid, and so yeah, I'm cutting these, laying them out, and cutting. I can get I'll give you the dimensions here. On this particular unit here, I made the metal pipe. This metal pipe here, I made them 16 inches long, and then I made the plastic at 13, so the PVC at 13 inches. So there's some room for these to move around, so they're not going to bind, hopefully. And that means you can't get out of a 10-foot, you can only get 9 pieces out of a 10-foot piece, but this will allow me, now you wouldn't necessarily have to make them this wide, but I'm doing it so I can put a full 2x12 on this and have some room. So with the space, it runs about 13 3/4 between them, and so that'll allow me to put a 12-inch wide plank right on, and eventually my plan is to get the planer, a Dewalt planer, which will run a 13-inch piece wide. So this will allow me to run those larger 2x12 through. And so what I do, like I said, it's fairly straightforward. I just cut. I'm just using a hacksaw, but you can see here I mark them off every 13 inches, and then the next thing I need to do, I know it's hard here with one hand, but then I have to ream out the inside so that get all those burrs, and I'll just set up my camera here and do it. So all I'm doing is just I just take a chisel, and I am taking the burrs off the inside. Let me see that. Get them on the outside as well. That way, when you're done, that stuff is not going to actually get connected or get bunged up on the metal roller on the inside of the metal bar. So I just use that. I know you can get little reamers for doing this when you're doing actual water lines, but chisel works just as well. So there, you get that done. It's nice and smooth. And so the next thing I need to do is I need to cut some more of this metal piping. Now, this is a piece I had left over. So I'll just show you here, when you put that on, that rolls really smoothly on that pipe. And so I will finish. I'm going to finish doing these particular pipes. I need to get another 6. I need 16. You need a total of 16 of those pipes and of the plastic conduit to go on top of the PVC. So like I said, at 8 feet you got 16 there every 16 inches or every 6 inches. So I've got 10 more already done up, so I need to do another 6 before we can start putting the next one together. So I will come back after I've finished my PVC. This will be kind of a piecemeal video. See you in a bit. Okay, so what I've done, I'm now at the next step. I've actually cut up some pipe here. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8 pieces. Now some of these were bent. I mean, this is not ideal when you have a bent piece. I pounded it back out. It still work. If you're buying these, like I said, those pipes are running about $12, $13 for a 10, 12 foot length. But this will work fine for what I'm using it for. Like I said, I'm salvaging stuff, so trying to save some money. So I'm going to let my daughter do some filming here, and I'll just show you what I have to do next. So the first thing I need to do is I need to get those rough burrs off the edges. So I'm just going to take my belt sander What that does is it gets rid of the burrs on the edges, so they'll actually go into the holes later a lot easier. I'm using about a 60 grit, 40 grit sanding pad, sanding belt. Up here. And now they'll slide and they basically roll freely on those pipes. So this is going to be the basis upon which you start with the rollers. Like I said, all of those, even the ones that are slightly, you know, that I had to straighten, are working okay as well. So I've done about another 8 here. I've got enough right now to start my next part of the project, which is actually drilling stuff out. So, as you can see, this is what we're looking for. This is the process. We want to get, like I said, 16 of those for each of those 8-foot sections. Those 8-foot sections over there. All I did is I'm just using a hacksaw to cut this material. You may have a electric hacksaw, or you know, something a little more industrial, and that's great. I don't, or a grinder of some sort on a chop saw. I'm just doing it here in the yard, and so I'm trying to be careful with all of the debris around with the kids. And so I will come back when I get to the next stage. Okay, the next procedure, I've got a couple fairly straight, I tried to keep fairly straight pieces I picked out. Now they can be bowed this way because we can take the bow out of it, although the straighter the better. What I've done is, these are a couple pieces of poplar, rough cut poplar, 4 inches by about 1 3/4 inches. And you can see here, I'll give you some measurements. What I did is I measured down 1 1/4 inches on each side, and this is important because if your pieces are not straight this way, in other words, if they've got a bow in it, you want to make sure that the rollers are on there straight on both sides. And so what I did is I set in 1 1/4 inches on each piece, on each end, and then you can see here I snapped a blue chalk line here. So that line now is going to give us a straight line to drill our holes for the pipe, the 3/4 inch conduit. And then what I did is I measured in 3 inches and then 6 inches, so 3 in from the end, then 9, and then I just set and went 6 inches right along here and marked on that blue chalk line. And so what we're going to do next is I've got to get a 15/16 a paddle bit. Just pull it out here. So what I did is I got a 15/16 paddle bit. That's just the right size for those pipes to go in and give it a little bit of room, you know, so they're not super tight. And now I'm going to drill out all those holes, and so I'll get my daughter out here and we'll do some more videoing. Okay, I've got everything set up. My son is going to videotape this for me. What I did is I just used this is a piece of pipe, scrap piece of pipe, and I'm using it as a depth gauge. So I've got 1 1/8 inches here because I really have enough room to put the pipes in about 1 inch, so I want a little bit of play here, so I've made that at 1.5 inches, or sorry, 1 1/8 inches. I've got my paddle bit all in, ready to go. So my son is going to videotape here. Get a hold of it. So we come over here. Now I know on this paddle bit, if if I go roughly to the bottom of my paddle, I'm at 1 1/8 inches. And so I use this depth guide, and you'll see it slides in right at 1 1/8 inches. So that's good. Now I'm going to set this on top of the other so I don't drill into my tailgate. Okay, so as you can see, I mean, obviously this is going to take a little bit of time. I've done approximately 2, 4, 5 of them, so I'm going to drill out. There's a total of 32 holes to be done, so I'll be back in a few minutes. Alright, so I've got all the holes drilled now, and you can kind of see down across there, the pipes are kind of going all which way. If you've got any that feel like they're really not that straight in the hole, what I do, almost coming back, babe, take a square and just set the square up to it and make sure that they're actually running fairly close. I mean, they're going to be loose in there, and so you got some play to work with here. Alright, so I've got my 32 pipes, or my 16 pipes in, and so now the next thing I've got to do is I've actually got to take my lubricant, my spray silicone right down there, and I'm going to spray the inside of those pipes and set all those pipes in. And so just taking a little bit of this spray, shoot it down in each way, set it on. Be good to go. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing there. I'm going to stop the video and pick it up at the next step. The main thing, like I said, is just to get that silicone in there, help give this some extra spin. Okay, we're coming to the last part of this now. So what I've done is, one of the hardest things, and this is where sometimes it's good to have another set of hands. I had my son come out, Mark, and help me. But once those bottom pieces are in, then you have to actually set, you can see here, and make sure that these are all lined up all the way across. And so that's where another set of hands. Now I started at this end, and I actually, Mark, just step back for a second, actually set this one to give me the height and to hold everything into place. Then I went to the other end, did the same thing, put my first piece in, that kind of holds everything into place. And now I'm just going to go along. Mark's going to videotape here, and I'll show you. I put them about every third one. I put a support. So here, Mark, you want to take this? Camera's running. For the viewers. Now what I've done here, before I was keeping them down flat, flush, so I'm just staggering a few of these to keep this from rocking, this piece here from rocking. Now these end ones do help that a bit, but you just want to make sure that they're not hitting the rollers in any way, and that they're below the rollers. So I've got them in about 5/8 of an inch from the bottom here. Mark just shined down, or put down, so about 5/8 in, so that'll keep them so the top rollers won't be affected. Now we're going to do the tops here, and that way they won't. So I'm going to stagger these. This one I'll keep flush. Next one I'll put in. I'm just using 3.5 inch deck screws, stereo deck screws. I'll flip that over and do the other side in a minute. This one I'm going to take more to the middle. Said on the first one I didn't do this.
Do you want me to?
Just give me a second. Just don't want that to get near the rollers. So in any way, and okay, so we have those. So they're cinched up pretty good. This one in as well. Now I'm just following the blue chalk line. That's what I'm setting that front to. I know it's going to be down below the rollers if I do that. So, come around to the other side here. Doesn't have to be perfect, but all right. So as you can see, I'm going to put this over and let my son do the other side. So he's got a hold of that. Just hold it there, Mark, for a second. Okay. So I'll come back in a minute. Okay. Now got it all together. I'll just go over. So there we have it. So that's roughly 13 3/4 of an inch in between. That's what these pieces right here, those small pieces, are cut. I cut all of these 13 3/4. And so it takes 2, 4, 6, 7 pieces, so you can get 7 out of an 8-foot piece. Those 13 3/4. And so all total, if you were to buy, kind of purchase the material and everything for this, like I said, most of this stuff I have is salvaged. You'd have 3 2x4s, so at about $6, $7 a 2x4. There's 20 bucks in wood. You would have 13. So you'd have to get about 1.5 lengths of pipe. So that's at $12, $13 a piece. So there's another roughly $20 in the metal pipe. That's 3/4 conduit, electrical conduit, and then we'd have to have another 1.5 of the PVC inch pipe as well. So that's another 20 bucks. So one of those sections is about $60 plus your labor for material. So if you're buying that, that's not counting the screws. Obviously, you'd have to get a box of screws if you didn't have any 3.5-inch screws around. So you're easy shooting the best part of $60 plus tax to do one of these, and I need 4 of them. So that's roughly $250, $240. And so this one here, completely my own materials and salvaged material. So that one cost me nothing. This one here, I've got the price of a pipe and a half of that PVC. So we're looking at, I've got about $20 in that. So that's about 1/3 of what it would cost if you had to buy all the material. And so are they worth it? Well, we'll see how they work. I will say that if you went with bigger pipe, of course the cost would go up. The bigger the pipe, the better the roll, the better you get for the rolling effect. I'm going to give this a whirl. Worst case scenario, at least it won't be, there won't be a lot of friction there. There'll be a chance for that to roll. And when I get it all set up and running, I will do another evaluation on this to see if this is, going to work the way I hope it works. And so main thing, just to recap, main thing is to try to get as straight a 2x4s as possible. Use your crookeder ones to cut up for these smaller pieces. Then make sure that you snap lines down in here, and you set these pipes center line on a line 1.25 inches down and at 6 inches apart, and make sure that you start in 3 inches. That way when you put these two together, you'll have pipes at 6 inches apart. And so everything else fairly straightforward. It's just a matter of putting time in. It takes me about, if you were to do this start to finish, it'd probably be 2 hours or more to do one of these units. And so I'm going to have 4 of them. So I'm going to have the best part of a day or more. I'm just kind of working away at it. Like I said, if you have a power hacksaw, that's going to do a lot quicker, or a grinder or something on a chop saw. I'm just using straightforward hacksaw, the good old-fashioned way. And so that is my video for today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I will do another one when I get to the point where I am assembling everything and we get it up and running. I'll do another video, but I always appreciate you joining me, and you have a great day.